Crying out loud. God.
Holy moly. Holy heck. I was like getting all excited about Pitt. And the microphone came on.
And whoever was in here last, and who was in here last, they had my audio jacked up to like, it was turned up to 11. All of a sudden, you're like screaming at me, and you're screaming at me on 11. It's like a bad dream I had.
It was. What the heck happened
it's
there?
John Hawley screaming at me, and he's screaming at me on 11.
Can we hit the reboot button on that? Can we start over? It's like, when you do your Netflix thing, I'm just going to go back 12 seconds. Wish I could just do that.
You can't, though.
No.
No, there's no going back.
Happy Veterans Day to you, Kath.
I'm not a veteran.
Neither am I. No.
Okay, so I don't think you can say that.
Any
to me.
veterans in your family,
yes,
though?
I would like to say Happy Veterans Day to two people in my family. My cousin Ed Warshall, who served our country in Vietnam.
Excellent.
And my nephew Joshua Van Dyke, who served our country aboard 2 aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps it was 1 aircraft carrier. I have to ask him exactly how many. I think he was on... Okay, 1 for sure.
All right. My nephew, Dominic, Happy Veterans Day. My brother, Jeff, Happy Veterans Day, a Vietnam vet. And,
do you know what branches of the military were they in?
my brother was drafted during the Vietnam War into the Army.
Into the Army?
And my cousin Dominic, my brother, my cousin, my nephew, Dominic, he was a United States Marine. Was a U.S. Marine.
Terrific. My cousin Ed was in the Army, and my nephew Joshua,
excellent,
U.S. Navy.
My dad was an Army veteran as well. So, Dad in heaven, Happy Veterans Day.
Wonderful.
Pitt's playing tonight?
It's a football night in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and the Pens are playing tonight. Are they? They're both in town.
Are the Pens in town?
I don't
know about that.
I thought they were.
Oh yeah, because Hornies. It's his first game back.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Pitt and the Pens. Traffic will be a mess a little later.
It's painful to think that Hornquist plays for a team that's not the Pens. It's really hard for me.
Just get on with it. Just get on with it.
And the team's better at this point.
Yeah, they are.
Well, we're in last place.
It's okay.
Currently,
We'll get better. It's a long season. It's a long season.
And how you can't replicate how many players have been hit with COVID.
Right.
You're not going to replicate that with injuries. I'm saying at another time in the season. This is going to be the hardest little block we're going through.
Watching the game? What are you going to do? Are you going to?
I got to be honest.
More of a Pitt game.
Pitt wins out tonight.
Yeah, of course they do.
Sorry, Pitt wins out. Okay, now listen.
That's why they win.
So.
That's why they win.
It was maybe 2 weeks ago in This or That, which is one of our weekly Friday features here on the Ride Home. I said to John, Pitt or Penn State?
Yeah.
Christy, what did he pick?
Penn State.
Okay. That's all that needs to be said about it.
Wait, hold on. Then I said, right on the heels of that, but I love both teams.
And I said, you love your wife and your girlfriend.
Right. But I've got proof here from this past summer that shows photographic proof that I've just sent to you and Christy of my love for Pitt.
Okay, first of all, can you hold that up so that the people who are watching, we're streaming live on The Word Pittsburgh. John's showing a photograph of himself on his phone where he's wearing some ridiculous Pitt hat that has Pitt Panther hair at the top. That proves nothing.
It proves that you would love your team to go to any lengths to show that.
No,
that's exactly what it is.
Because when I gave you an opportunity to pick your team,
there it is.
You picked Penn State as your team.
There you go. That's a better view.
Good. That's great.
I love them both. Mm-hmm. It's okay.
You can't love them both.
You can.
You can watch the Pitt game tonight, but you can't watch it with the same kind of love.
I can't tell you how many people have approached me since I made that public statement and said, I agree with you.
Oh, to all the people. Yeah, you're swarmed with people who are saying that. Get out of here.
I'm not saying I'm swarmed with people. I'm saying there are many households in this region.
Yeah, there might be a half a household that heard that. And
many.
Said, yeah.
Wait, Christy's waving me off oh, that's great.
Get out of here.
All right, anyway. As we always do, we get underway with the news stories of the day. If that's not enough for you, Kath, please give us the top 4 at 4.
Coming at you. For Thursday, November 11th, 2021. Number 1. A key sector of Pittsburgh's booming tech market led the nation in rent growth over the past 2 years, and the region as a whole could be poised for even more expansion in the future. Reading from today's PG, they say it's according to the CBRE real estate firm, which this week, John, released its annual Tech 30 report, which measures the industry's impact on office demand and rents, which is interesting to me simply because I'm surprised that there still is office demand at this point.
Office demand?
Yes.
What kind of demand
Listen,
would there be?
The report found that the East End, Oakland area experienced the highest office rent growth.
Really?
That's 34.6% between the second quarter of 2019 and the second quarter of 2021 of any tech submarket in the United States.
I love that. That's fabulous.
In doing so, it outperformed tech hubs such as Seattle's Lake Union, which is home to Amazon, and others in Toronto, Phoenix, Philadelphia, Dallas, Denver, and Nashville.
Okay. That's also driving the rental and housing market as well, unfortunately.
It's true. CBRE report also identified Pittsburgh as one of the 10 best markets poised for resiliency and continued expansion based on tech job growth and momentum.
Very nice. Go Pittsburgh. You can come here to Parkway Center because there's a little deficit in occupancy.
We seem to have some space open. Number 2. Pittsburgh's annual Veterans Day Parade was back in force today with representatives of all branches of the military in attendance to honor veterans past and present.
Really?
Yes, reading from the Trib here. We know, of course, that this event is meant to honor veterans who came before and to show appreciation for veterans alive today. The parade featured veterans, ROTC programs, authentic military jeeps, high school marching bands. I marched in this parade.
Did you, though?
When I was, yes. Mm-hmm.
Downtown Pittsburgh?
Yep. And usually when I marched in it, it was like 31 degrees and raining.
Listen, you should bring in that little thing you've got in your office.
The Kathy doll. That's a good idea. I should bring that in.
to see that.
Anyway, it began at 10:30 a.m. and marched down Liberty Avenue, which was lined with supporters and fellow veterans. That must have been good to see after COVID, right?
Anybody downtown Pittsburgh would be good to see. Would it not be?
Number 3. You know how I love a weird animal story.
Wait, this is
2 days in a row. Christy, you missed one yesterday, and it was epic.
Well, she had her own weird animal story yesterday.
Okay. Number 3. Multicolored Asian lady beetles.
Multicolored?
Swarming in large numbers across the mid-Atlantic because of late fall warmth. Also, John, called ladybird beetles. This type of ladybug smells bad, can bite you, and if you squish it, produces a messy yellow stain.
They're here in Pittsburgh?
Isn't that horrible? That's why I'm bringing it up. I'm not sure that they are, but it is another invasive insect that has found a home in our general area. More on that later.
Fabulous.
And number 4, 105-year-old Julia Hawkins, John.
Yep.
Just in case you're feeling like a little creaky in the hip, or maybe your ankle needs help or whatever it is.
Yeah, of a certain age.
105-year-old Julia Hawkins of Louisiana just set a world record at the Louisiana Senior Olympic Games for being the first woman and first American in her age group to run 100 meters.
Whoa.
She came in first place in the 100-meter dash.
What?
And that's your top 4 at 4.
Really fabulous. When's the last time you ran?
She's 105. I ran this morning.
You ran?
I run in place for, 90-second blips. I don't run outside ever. I'm a terrible runner.
We saw someone running today, my wife and I did, and I was like, look at that. And she was probably, of a certain age, and I was like, look at her run up that hill. And I couldn't tell you. Well, I broke my ankle badly, so
you can't.
I've not
be
run
running.
have not ran seriously since I was 21 years of age.
I never ran seriously.
Never
my whole
once.
Life. Never. No. I mean, my 60-second, 90-second bursts. That's all I got. That's all I got. Anyway, can I give you just a couple more details about the ladybird thing? This is kind of
the bug thing?
The ladybird beetle.
Is this like stink bugs and then some?
That's why I'm so excited to tell you about it. So they look different than ladybugs. Ladybugs are like super red.
I saw a ladybug in my house today.
I love ladybugs. Aren't they pretty?
Beautiful.
I think they are. These ones aren't quite as pretty.
Great.
They're like a little more orangey and not quite as red.
Are they large? Because
They're
ladybugs
about
are
the
tiny.
same. Yeah, they're a little bigger, but not much bigger.
Okay, all right.
But they are aiming to find a location to overwinter at this time of year. That's what they're doing. So if you there was a guy who was quoted in this Washington Post article, and he said that he went out on a run and then got something to eat, and he came back and there were like hundreds of them on the ceiling of his hotel room.
Really?
In the Washington area. A Washington Post polled readers on Facebook and Twitter, and multicolored Asian lady beetles have been a big problem for many. As of this writing, which was this morning, we have over 1,500 reader comments about lady beetles, including photos and stories about pests.
All right. Something to look forward to.
So look it out, people. It's not just the spotted lanternfly.
Right. More weird animal stories. You heard it here. Life is hard. This past almost 2 years, I mean, holy smokes. I mean, friendships have blossomed. Friendships have dissolved. Faith is the same way, right? I mean, you can't imagine where we've been. What a crazy, odd journey. So, where have you been anchored these last couple of years? Toni Turner's with us. Toni's a regular guest on our show. She's a pastor, a counselor, a teacher. Gracism Task Force is her ministry. She's with us right now. Hey, Tone, how you doing?
Hi, good to see you guys.
Good to see you. How are things?
It's good to be seen and not viewed.
Well,
that says it all.
Yeah.
okay, so we've all been through some stormy weather, Toni, and I know you have. So what are you thinking about it? How have you come to terms with things?
So for me, it's been about, okay, I'm hearing all these different things. You hear, about the COVID vaccine, you hear about the COVID itself, you hear about, what's going on politically, what's going on racially, what's going on here or there. And it's like we're being like torn to shreds. I don't know if you remember, a couple of years ago, I was asked to lead some prayer in Monroeville for their National Day of Prayer event. And so I was just like asking the Lord, what should I be praying about? They asked me to pray about the media. And so I said, if there's any place that we're being, torn asunder, it would be through the media, because you never know. Everybody's got a different side, a different view. And actually, my family will tell you, my TV is off most of the time, because you just don't know what to count on. And for me, I'm looking at a story in the scripture where it talks about the disciples being in a boat with Jesus. In one account of the gospel, I think Matthew talks about how the waves on the water were like higher than the boat, and how I think it's in Mark where it says the boat started filling up. And in Luke, it says that it was only a lake, and yet the storm was so torrential until they felt like they were in danger. And Jesus was in the back of the boat, asleep on a pillow. And so they woke him up. Aren't you concerned that something's going to happen to us? And that's pretty much, where we have been, people walking around so fearful about what's happening, what's not happening, what's going to happen. If it's not depression, it's, and dealing with things that happened in the past, it's anxiety, dealing with the things that haven't happened yet. Is it the end? Is this the Antichrist time? Or, there's so many different things. Yeah. And yet when they woke Jesus up, Jesus was like, wait, weren't you guys with me when I was teaching all those things about, what it takes to be, what it takes to be one of my disciples? Because I believe that what we're going through as Christians is a discipleship issue. He says, why do you call me master? And yet you don't do what I say. I tried to tell you that what I do is what I see the Father do. If the Father is not shaken, I'm not going to be shaken. If the Father is not fearful, I'm not going to be fearful, And to me, that's what grace is all about. Remember, I shared with you one of the scholars that was consulted to even define the word grace. He said everywhere in the New Testament where it said unmerited favor, it actually did not fit. He said what fit, though, was God's empowering presence. When you think about favor, your mind is like partly cloudy, because different people have an idea about what that means. But when you think about the presence of God, that's, even though it's still a mystery to us, it's a little more something that you can define, in your head. And so I'm saying, through these stormy times, I know that God is in here with me, and I need to be focused on what he needs me to be focused on. And for me, it's two things. One is to know him, to get to know him better. And second is to tell others about him. What else is there for us, and some of my friends will say, well, you're so heavenly minded until you're no earthly good. And I'm like, what? My scripture says that heaven is eternal, but this earth has not just a beginning, but it has an ending. So I need to have my vision, like the song says, cast my eyes upon the distant shore. My home is in heaven. But what am I supposed to be doing while I'm here? And the only way I can do that is to make sure that my anchor is solid, and my anchor is in Jesus. It's got to be about the cross, because everything else, you never know what you're going to hear next. That's about good. The same topics.
That's really good, Toni.
Toni Turner's with us, Pittsburgh-based pastor, counselor, and teacher from the Gracism Task Force. So, Toni, you have friends that think that you should be more political than you are.
No, because they already know. My friends, know exactly where I stand. But what I feel is that ultimately God is in charge. And there may be, certain issues that are, as a Christian, just very black and white for me. But if somebody else doesn't have that same revelation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pray, first of all, that they get that revelation. And if we can talk about it, you know me, I like to talk. So I would rather for us to reason so that, I can find out what it is that's causing them to believe the way they believe. and let them see what I believe. Now, because I believe that the word of God is the only truth, Jesus said they would accept or reject it or him, and I can't be responsible for what I'm not responsible for. What he says was tell them. He didn't say stuff it down their throat. He didn't say, try to, he didn't say convince them. He said, just tell them. And the Holy Spirit has some things to do. For example, I had a friend who I went to beauty school with, and he was gay. And he wanted to let me know if we were going to be friends that I needed to know that he was gay. But I said, when he told me, I said, no, duh. And so he said, you knew? And I said, yes, I knew. And he said, but you're a Christian. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, you haven't treated me like I'm gay. And so then my question was, what does that mean? I'm a follower of Christ. How would Christ treat that person? That needs to be my model. So I asked him, to explain to me how he had been treated. And it was very sad because Jesus said, they'll know that I came. They'll know that you're mine by the way you treat each other, by the way you treat each other. So, how can I demonstrate anything less than his love? Now, I don't have to like what you do. I don't have to love what you do, but I do have to love you. And so if I'm finding it difficult to work through that, I have to ask for wisdom. God, how do I love this one? How do I seek this one's highest good? Because what I don't want to do is kill, steal, or destroy. That means I'm someone else's child.
I'm into that. That's great. Really Tony, I believe what you're describing here is that as you walk this earth, as you engage, family, friends, strangers, that you are essentially the face of love, that you are Christ loving face wherever you go. That's a great reminder for me. I love what you're saying here.
That's what I'm talking about. It's we're to be a demonstration. We're to either season or bring light, salt or light, and so how do we do that? In my last days, I'm not going to be saying, Jesus wasn't like, well, where's the doctrine? Or where's the, how did I get baptized? Or, did somebody speak in tongues or they didn't? Those things don't matter.
Well, what do you think about the news stories, the second before?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But I want to know, did I do what I was supposed to do while I was here? And is my family or my friends, even that person that I met in the supermarket, are they going to heaven? Or, did I do what I was supposed to do? I don't want to get to heaven and have Jesus say, well, Tony, what are you still doing with that in your hands? You were supposed to leave that back there.
That's good.
That's Tony Turner, Pittsburgh-based pastor, counselor, and teacher from the Gracism Task Force. Tony, people are interested in finding out more about Gracism. How do they do that?
Well, right now, I'm working on getting information for a website, which would be, the Gracism Task Force, but we haven't got that up yet. I am in the process, finally, of doing it. But right now, if you friend me on Facebook, you can be invited to the page.
Okay, that's Tony Turner, Toni Turner.
Very nice. Find her on Facebook, the Gracism Task Force. Tony, love you.
Great to see you, Tom.
Always happy to see you.
God bless.
God bless you. We'll step away for just a few minutes.
Coming up next, the most hated Thanksgiving foods. They're not the ones you expect.
Really?
It's not like candy corns in there or something.
The Brussels sprouts segment, that's next.
All of a sudden, John forgets how to work the mechanics of radio.
One of the joys of Thanksgiving Day, of course, is the feast. The problem with the feast is it's a feast, and your stomach is only so large. So there are many things you go, I wish I had a little more room for that. The positive sign of all that is there are some things that you walk by on the table and you go, I don't want to eat that because that's not my favorite. Or that shows up once a year. There are many.
The creamed onions I told you my mother used to make.
Creamed onions. How about creamed corn? That's the worst. No one should eat creamed corn. No one. That should be outlawed.
Christy, how do you feel about creamed corn?
I'll eat it.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Really?
I don't love it. I mean, like, if I never have it again, I'm good with that. But it doesn't, like...
I would have a gag reflex.
Is that right?
I would. I really would. That would. I'd go, ugh, that's not good.
Well, you probably wouldn't feel good about the onion either.
I would feel worse about the onions.
Well, I have a daughter who is 19 years old, and since she was, like, eating solid food, she never liked the Thanksgiving meal.
Never.
Which I think is, like, un-American.
How could you like... Wait.
I think that's my favorite meal of the year.
Of course, not even a small corner of the Thanksgiving
She just,
meal? Like she
like,
rejects the entire thing?
She doesn't... Well, she really... Like, if she never had a Thanksgiving meal again, she'd be, like, totally fine with that. Which, it would break my heart if I didn't have a Thanksgiving meal.
No turkey?
I turned to something called The Vacationer, a travel website. They surveyed adults in the U.S. to find out which Thanksgiving foods, John, they dislike the most. Dislike the most. And the results are a little surprising.
Wait, Thanksgiving's 2 weeks away from today.
Yes, that's why I'm bringing it
2
up.
weeks countdown.
That's right. This is topical. Right?
You're whetting my appetite.
I'm going to start with the bottom. So this is like only 12% of people dislike this food.
Okay.
And I'm going to move to the thing at the top that people dislike the most.
Okay, good.
Carrots. 12% dislike carrots.
I'm not a big carrot fan.
Corn.
Depends upon how it is.
Okay, if we're not doing creamed, if we're doing regular corn.
Love it. I love it.
Isn't it? You don't think
It's
it's delicious?
delicious.
Christy
It's
doesn't really like
delicious.
it. What about if you mix it with mashed potatoes?
No,
You don't
no.
like that in gravy?
I mean, it's all right.
No,
you
it's,
get the crunch in there. I think
I
it's
love
so
corn.
good.
Yeah, me too.
I really love it. Macaroni and cheese.
what? That's not. That can't be true.
14.73% of people dislike macaroni and cheese.
That's bad.
Mashed potatoes.
Please. It's
I
un-American.
don't like mashed potatoes.
My niece doesn't like mashed potatoes.
What?
She's one of the people.
Yeah.
She's one of the.
She's 5, but you know.
Oh, well,
She's one of the
fine. She's got a long ways to go.
17.5%.
When she's 55, she might change her mind.
Pumpkin pie, number 8.
That's
20% of people dislike. I can see that. I deeply love it, but I can see how it's a little weird.
no,
It's not a crowd pleaser to me.
really.
Ham.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, me too.
Depending upon
Yeah.
the ham.
Yes.
Where's the ham
Yep.
coming from? What kind of ham?
Yeah, and how it's cut also I think has something to do with it. If you have like big like triangle sized pieces,
No.
that's not interesting to me.
Oh, no. Sometimes sometimes I smell ham and I kind of gag.
Really?
It's a pig.
Okay. Number 6. Coleslaw.
Oh, I love coleslaw.
So do I. I deeply love it.
Me too.
Now keep in mind, now we're getting up to 23% of people dislike the next thing. So these are high numbers. Stuffing.
Stuffing can be wonderful.
But 23% of people dislike stuffing.
I mean, good stuffing. Don't you love good?
Number 4, green bean casserole.
I love it.
Do you like?
I love it.
You love it.
I love it. My
Yeah.
mom, she refuses to make it.
Really?
She doesn't like it, yeah.
Okay, she's one of the people.
Wait, is she putting like mushroom soup in there? People do that? You
Yeah.
see?
Well, that's what the recipe is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can if you make it in like the
Traditional.
No, the traditional way is with the soup. That's
Okay.
how the recipe was created. But there are chefs who have made it.
Super fancy.
Exactly. It was not using any
I'll have to
canned
try that.
anything.
Yeah.
Number 3, sweet potatoes or yams, and that's Christy right there.
Yep, hate them.
Hate them.
Hate them.
Okay, now number 2, at 28% of the people dislike turkey.
Really? On Thanksgiving.
28% of the people dislike turkey, and number 1,
Yeah.
almost 30% of people dislike pretty much my favorite food on earth, cranberry sauce.
Really? 30% of the people.
30%, you guys. So my question is, why, with these high numbers, why are we having this holiday?
Well,
Seems
some
like
people.
maybe we should be eating different things.
Right. Well, you can't please everybody.
How do you feel about cranberry sauce?
I love cranberry sauce.
Christy.
I love it.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, minced with some little orange in there.
Oh, so that's relish though. It's cranberry relish. It's different.
Happy to have that.
Okay, you like cranberry? Do
Wait,
you like
cranberry sauce? Yeah, yeah. With the the little
cloves?
cloves. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it.
great. Me too. Do you like the jellied stuff in the can?
I'll eat it.
I grew up on that, so it's nostalgic for me. I wouldn't go out of my way to eat it.
It's weird.
If it showed up, I'd probably have it just, out of like memory nostalgia.
But what if it's not really cold?
I'd still try it, like a spoonful of it or
It's gotta
two.
be. The only way I'm having the jellied stuff is so weird to me. The only way I'm having it is if it's really cold.
Really? No, it's fine. I mean, I'm surprised that I would thought you were going to like have like some really weird exotic stuff like like the Brussels sprouts.
Well, that's what's so weird about this list is
Yeah.
the things that are most hated. Like
traditional.
I like everything on that list.
Pretty much. Me too.
I'm good with it all.
With the exception of creamed corn and or creamed onions, I'm pretty much
And
good to
I gotta
go.
be honest with you, I love a Brussels sprout.
Oof. That's rough. J. Warner Wallace is back with us. Dateline featured cold case detective, senior fellow at the Colson Center for Christian Worldview, adjunct professor of apologetics at Biola. He's the author of Cold Case Christianity, God's Crime Scene, Forensic Faith, and creator of the Casemakers Academy for Kids. He's got a new work out as well. Jim, always a pleasure to see you, especially now that you see us on Zoom. Good to see you.
I know, right? This is crazy.
It is
After
crazy.
all this time. This is from now on. We're only doing Zoom.
Good.
Okay, excellent.
This is awesome.
That's the way we like it.
Good.
Jim, we've known you for a long time. I guess we can parenthetically just thank you for being such a friend of the show for such a long period. I mean, it's been about 12 years since our
Easily.
show started. And I think you were,
Crazy.
I bet we met you in the first 3 months.
Probably so.
Yeah, isn't that awesome? I feel the same way. I think you're the first radio show that I did.
Nice.
Is
I think
that
you might be
right?
the first. I'm pretty sure.
Boom.
Wow.
I remember thinking at the time, well, hey, I made it. I'm on the air in Pittsburgh.
Yep, that was
So I
it.
thought, hey,
Right, and
it
then
doesn't get any better than
then
this.
you just
and
thought,
actually,
I'm just gonna quit.
it hasn't gotten any better than this. I
Thank
think that my favorite shows, my favorite interviews are with you guys.
You're fabulous.
Oh,
Thanks for
that's-
remembering this, Jim.
that's- yeah.
Because you've grown beyond that. I mean,
For sure.
Dateline itself, you sort of dominate that.
Well, I think back when we started, I might have had 1 or 2 episodes on Dateline, but that was about it. And so, yeah, I think you're right. I think we started pretty early, and I'm just grateful that we are still friends.
Fabulous.
So, for people who haven't been along for the 12-year journey that we've been on with you, and they don't know your background, talk about being a cold case homicide detective and how that's kind of brought you to where you are today.
Well, I mean, this is the kind of thing that I get stuck with if you work homicides very long as an agency. You're going to have some that go unsolved. And so unsolved murders, they become cold. And we have no statute of limitations. So I've been working as a homicide detective in Los Angeles County. And I used to get these assigned to me as a collateral duty. And they're lame. I mean, I don't want to work these cases because I've got a fresh homicide I got to finish. And I don't have time to be picking up some case from 30 years ago. But I got injured on duty many years ago. And I was at light duty for like 2 or 3 months. About drove me crazy. But I picked up one of these cold cases because they weren't assigning me anything new because I was light duty. So I ended up solving it. And that really started a whole nother career for me within the career I had, just working on these unsolved murders. They're pretty interesting.
Fabulous.
So, when you started doing it, I mean, obviously you said you didn't want to, but then when you got into it, what made you like? How'd they get under your skin? Those stories.
Well, most of us who work as detectives, we're puzzlers. We like to puzzle things. Like we have bits and pieces, and we're thinking, oh, I know what goes in that space. And so these are the kind of consummate puzzling cases, right? You already know that some other group of detectives worked at this thing for a year, 2 years sometimes, and got nowhere. So you're thinking, okay, well, let me see if I can pick up the thing that appears to be unsolvable. And then solve it, right? Because that's the challenge. I don't ever want a case that I can solve with DNA or solve with, I want something that's going to require a lot of work. And when you finally get done, you're like going, wow, okay, well, if we hadn't picked that up, it wouldn't have got solved.
Interesting.
And that's the kind of cases we typically engage.
So then your work as a detective obviously informs your life as a believer in Jesus Christ. Now, the latest piece you're working on is Person of Interest. And the thread that is from that, Jim, is how history was aligned by God to prepare for the appearance of Jesus. There's a mystery there.
Yeah, so here's what we did. In No Body Murders, you have a case where a husband kills his wife and then says, oh, she ran off. And then there's no body. He gets rid of the body. And then you take a missing persons report, and no one ever investigates the thing for many years as a murder. Well, eventually we're going to pick it up as a murder. And then you have no body. You have no crime scene. Nobody even photographed the house during those times because they didn't think it was a murder. So how do you make a case like that to a jury if you've got no crime scene and no evidence of a crime scene? Well, you tell them on the day that she vanished, if it was a murder, a bomb went off. And bombs are always preceded by a long fuse that burned toward the explosion of the bomb. And after the bomb explodes, you got shrapnel everywhere. Well, if you were not, so you can make a case for what happened on the day she went missing from just the fuse and the fallout of the timeline. So what we do in this case for Jesus, if you think, well, imagine a scenario in which there's no New Testament that you could trust. They've all been destroyed somehow by some nefarious regime. Well, you could actually make a case just from the fuse and the fallout of history as to why we call that thing the first century. And so that's what we're doing in this book. And so part of that is the fuse. It's that fuse that burns up to the appearance of Jesus in the timeline, that explosive appearance of Jesus. And there's several strands of that fuse. There's a reason why Paul says that Jesus came in the fullness of time. What does that even mean? Well, it means that God aligned history in such a way that a small window of opportunity during the Pax Romana of the Roman Empire, during that prophetic period that Daniel mentions in which the Messiah will come, during that period in which ancients are worshiping their myths, all of which include imaginations about God that are actually rooted in our beliefs in God. In other words, we have expectations if there is a God, and Jesus actually fits our expectations. So I think a lot of this is to show how that fuse that burns up to Jesus provides a very short window, and that happens to be the window in which Jesus appears. And that's why I think Christianity ignites as fast as it does, as quickly as it does in the Roman Empire.
Oh, I love that, Jim. And I love it because one of the things that I've always thought was weird is how people tend to approach the Bible. So, if you're going to read the Bible, you're just going to let it fall open and you're just going to, read a couple verses or whatever without thinking that maybe what came before what you're reading has to do with what you're reading.
Right.
And what's going to come after what you're reading has to do with what you're currently reading, because that's the way we look at every other book.
Sure.
I mean, other than like the dictionary or a cookbook, right? We expect that if we open up a book, what happened before it has to do with what's going on right now. And
The linear thread.
The linear thread. And it's curious, Jim, that people don't look at the story of the Bible that way.
Yeah, well, let's face it, we often treat every book of Scripture as if it's the book of Proverbs, where I can just pull one proverb out and there's no real necessary connection to anything before or after it. But this is also not just true of the Bible. It's true of human history. Like we have a tendency to look at the appearance of Jesus in the timeline and say, okay, it's disconnected. Well, no, actually, there's a fuse that burns up to the appearance of Jesus. And if you saw every way that he impacts culture in the years that follow what we call the Common Era, you can actually reconstruct the story of Jesus from just the Common Era data. I'll give you a weird example of this. Scientists, for example, are largely the most influential scientists in the history of scientists or Christ followers. They wrote about Jesus. They are the fathers of all the major disciplines in the sciences. Or guess what? Oh, yeah, they were Christ followers, from modern astronomy, biology, chemistry, all the way to quantum mechanics. We make a list of all these. You can learn more about Jesus from the science fathers than you can from the church fathers. That's how much impact Jesus has had. You can reconstruct Jesus from the history of science. That's a very unusual thing for a first century Jewish sage to be able to say. Unless, of course, he is the person he said he was. He's not a person at all. He's God entering into his creation. That's the kind of stuff we're looking at in Person of Interest.
Yeah, so that's cool. So in Person of Interest, you take this tiny thread and then you open it up into a much larger worldview.
Yeah, exactly. And we tried to illustrate that because my work is all in front of juries. It's very visual. Yeah. So we have 400 plus illustrations in this book. There's not, if you open it up, there's not a single page where there won't be an illustration because we want the jury, the reader, to see the impact that Jesus had because it's so powerful. I think it speaks to his deity. Look, if there's no other fictional character that's had this kind of impact on history, and there isn't, there's good reason to believe that Jesus is not a fictional character. And if there's no other mortal who's had this kind of impact, there's good reason to believe that Jesus is just not another mortal. So you have, I think, good evidence that Jesus is the historicity of Jesus and the deity of Jesus in the kind of impact he's had on our human culture.
Fabulous.
The Ride Home is streaming live on YouTube at The Word Pittsburgh. You can watch the show. We're talking live. You can see the face of J. Warner Wallace, who's on Zoom with us right now. Jim, so when you get to the end of this project and it's published and this is in people's hands, what do you hope they gain after they're done with it, that maybe something that they never considered before, or a different way of looking at the story of Jesus than they had in the past?
Well, this is one of the reasons why the subtitle we changed about halfway through, because I realized about halfway through writing it that this is not just a book about the evidence for Jesus. This is a book that talks about why Jesus still matters, even if you're somebody who rejects Scripture. So if you're a non-believer, if you're like me at 35, the things that mattered most to me at 35 were literature, art, music, because I came out of a design background, education, and science. And I think a lot of people in culture would say that those are the things that matter most. That's why Netflix, that's why music is so big. That's why art is so big, because those things matter to people. Well, do you realize that all five of those things are utterly dependent upon the worldview initiated by Jesus of Nazareth and the believers in Jesus who then embodied that worldview in all five of those disciplines? Whatever you think you know about music or art or literature or education or science, you wouldn't know what you know today. You wouldn't be experiencing what you're experiencing today if not for Jesus and his followers. Now that should stop you, because the things that mattered most to me as an atheist were utterly Jesus dependent. He still matters. Now, he doesn't matter because those things are important. Those things are important because he matters. And that's what I'm hoping people will see in this, is that there's a beauty. Most of us as apologists don't talk much about the beauty of Jesus. That's what I hope this book does.
Outstanding. Well, Jim, like the man, your ministry is so incredibly unique.
Yeah.
As a former atheist, as a cold case homicide detective, as a now believer in Jesus Christ, and obviously your deep love and the intellectual heft that you present. It's just fabulous work. So keep it up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of
We're
you.
cheering
I
for
love
you,
being
Jim.
on the show. And now that we're on Zoom, we got to do this more often.
Okay.
Good to see you, buddy. You look great.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to see you too.
Thank
All
you.
Bye.
That's Jay Werner Wallace. The brand new book that's going to be out. Well, we didn't ask him when.
It's out now.
Oh, it's out now.
Yep.
Person of Interest: How History Was Aligned by God to Prepare for the Appearance of Jesus.
Take a break. Ligonier man walks for suicide. What time does the Pitt game start tonight, Christy? Do you know?
7:30.
7:30.
you're right.
Thank you. All right. So Pitt versus North Carolina.
Yep.
What do you know? You got
Yeah, I have a pick I feel very good about.
You do?
Yeah, because we're talking two bad defenses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
and so
and 2 gunslingers.
Yeah, and so I feel very good. So it's going to be. I'm picking Pitt because I'm like
Because you're Homer.
I'm like a person who keeps coming back for pain.
Yeah.
Pitt 54.
Whoa.
North Carolina 48.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, very nice. I'm also picking Pitt.
Are you?
And I'm saying Pitt 45, NC 38.
Okay.
45-38.
Okay, Christy.
I'm also picking Pitt.
Are you?
I am. Pitt 40, North Carolina 34.
Look at us.
Okay.
All picking these are high scores. What if it turns
Because-
out to be like 10-7?
They can't.
Might.
How could it can't? If Kenny
Kenny
Pickett
Pickett breaks his leg.
falls asleep. That's a horrible thing
I'm
to say.
just saying.
I said if he falls asleep. I mean, it's
not going to fall asleep. Like he's going to fall. Hey,
Well,
Kenny, wake
I
up. The
sure-
game's on. He could break his leg.
I sure hope he doesn't break his leg, John.
Well, I hope so too. I'm just saying, low scoring scenario.
I
that's
mean,
that might be it. I'm not wishing he would break his leg
Okay,
by
well,
any
that's
stretch of the imagination.
Okay.
I want to. How about Kenny Pickett playing for the Steelers?
Well,
Chrissy said shaking her head no. He's going to go in the like first or second round, right?
I think he'll go in the first or second round.
Yeah,
of
without
course,
it-
depending on what happens from here on out.
What if he has a like horrible rest of the season?
I mean, if there's a few more games like the Miami game, he's not going to go in the first round.
Okay. If he loses 10-7 tonight, yeah.
Right, but let's hope that's not the case because he certainly has been outstanding.
How about the shots of him with his hair?
The
That's a
hair
little
is
much.
the hair is a lot.
That's a lot, isn't it?
People are very into his hair.
He's into his hair.
Yeah, everybody's.
People. What are people? I think he just every time his camera's on, he's like with the water bottle squirting his little head there.
Right.
That's so funny.
It's like Paul Rudd on.
Colbert. Sexiest man alive.
Oh my God.
Listen, that's funny stuff.
It is so hilarious.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's one of the fun. So, People Magazine released their Sexiest Man Alive a couple days before yesterday,
It's ridiculous.
which is ridiculous, right? And what makes it so great is that Paul Rudd won this year and hit the bit that he did on Colbert's show about it.
Which I haven't seen
I haven't
Colbert.
seen Colbert's show since before, I think 2016, because he got super political and annoying, and I thought I don't want to get into that.
Yeah,
Well,
I
this
agree.
is
This is vintage Colbert.
at his best. It is
funny
absolutely
stuff.
so funny.
And Paul Rudd is one of those George Clooney-esque type
Yeah.
of guys who he's a big star. He doesn't take himself
Nope.
serious at all.
Nope.
He's able to just, have fun. He goofs around.
I love Ant-Man so much. Have you seen? Do you love Ant-Man,
Yes.
Christy? Isn't it? Isn't
Good.
it? It's just the best.
Yeah.
What's that show that we watched that he starred in? Remember the one where he plays his clone?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Forget it.
Anyway, it's something for you to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, coming up this weekend, I know it's only Thursday, and we're going to have a big Friday show for you tomorrow, including
Big show.
the Weekend Review
We got a big
and
one.
this or that.
Yeah. We're
Also,
going to get the guys from Babylon Bee out with us tomorrow.
oh, will we?
Yeah.
Okay. Kyle, is he the one who's going to be with us?
No,
I'm not sure who it is.
I'll find out.
Okay. Anyway, that's coming up on tomorrow's show. But as I look forward to the weekend, John, my question for you is, it's a Thursday night, it's football. Does that mean investment in snacks for you, like you did Monday night for the Steelers?
No, I can't. No, I mean, Monday night football, I blew it out. I mean, I was doing chips and Fritos and dip and, apple cider. And I mean, it was a little too much for me, even for me. I mean, I don't think tonight, what am I going to do?
Well, plus you're not really a Pitt fan.
That's not true. I love
I'm
Pitt.
picking on you. You like Pitt. It's not loving.
I love him.
No, if you pick somebody else more, you don't
I
love.
also love Penn State.
No, I don't.
Can you
Get outta here.
It's just how it happens.
Get out of here.
Maybe I'll buy a box of Juji fruits to celebrate.
You could get those dots. That's like the dumbest candy.
I'd like to watch a Pitt game and have a box of dots.
Box of dots. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, 5 facts to know about Veterans Day. We'll also do Does This Make Sense? And why the gap between men and women finishing college is growing. Plus, a big music star coming to PNC Park for a big concert this summer.
All right. Hey, greetings. Good afternoon to you. Telling a few pet stories here.
Sure, pet stories in the commercial break.
Hey, listen. We got a little present here today. Did we not?
The
management?
hams.
Yeah.
We got holiday hams.
We did.
Oh, look, John's brought the ham into the studio
There's
here.
a ham. There's a ham right there.
Okay, that's
I went
terrific.
in today, the kitchen today. How many hams were there? 20?
A lot.
25?
There were a lot of hams.
Hams right there. Now, to be honest, I don't need this ham.
Right.
I'm going to give it away.
Are you?
Yeah.
Terrific.
If you need a ham, and if you really,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want someone to go, but if you know someone who will go, it's Thanksgiving and they don't have any, let's give this away.
That's a great idea.
Okay. Should we do it email? Would that be the easiest way?
Yeah.
Okay.
John Hall at Word FM. John Hall at Word, WORD,
WordFM.com.
FM.com.
I got a ham, and I want to say thanks to management. But you see the abundance. I walked back there, and I was like, "Holy smokes! Look at all that meat!
Right.
There's a ton of meat." So I don't know how big of a ham it is. It doesn't say how big of it is.
I call it a big ham.
It's a Smithfield Spiral Signature Ham.
Mm-hmm.
So there it is, out there, and it's big. It kind of looks like a hat. It's like a ham hat.
That's nice, John.
Very nice, like an Easter ham hat.
No, I like it.
But anyway, I don't want to denigrate the ham. I want to say if you want a ham,
Right.
John Hall at WordFM.com.
Terrific.
All right.
All right. So today being Veterans Day, John, we mentioned veterans that we know and love in our families.
Yes.
I mentioned my cousin Ed Warshel and my nephew Josh
dad,
Van
my
Dyke.
brother,
Your dad,
nephew.
your brother, right? What do we need to know about Veterans Day that maybe we don't know?
I don't know.
All right.
You tell me.
Okay. All right then.
I was busy with the ham.
Okay, sure. I didn't realize the ham was happening.
No, I'm sorry.
All right, let me ask you this.
Okay.
When it comes to your memories of people you know who served,
Yes.
there's a story today about a Ligonier man who continues to walk memorial to memorial to raise awareness for veteran suicide. That's in today's trip.
Right.
And so it just brings to mind how distant the average person, and by average person I mean me, is from the field of battle.
Well, this is interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so if we're talking about World War II, it seemed like everybody fought in one way or another.
Right. Everybody served in one way.
That's a better word.
Right.
Everybody served. Everybody sacrificed
Right.
in one way or another. When I think about the wars of my lifetime, I don't feel like I've
It's a
served
tiny,
at all.
Tiny percentage. Okay. Now, my dad served. When my brother came back from Vietnam, he got beat up
Why?
because the war was so unpopular.
And that's how America was then.
My brother was out one night after he was back just a couple of days. He was wearing his uniform and he was out looking. He was going to buy a car. And it was late at night, so the car dealership was closed. A couple of guys came upon him and they were like, "Hey, man," and they chased him down and beat him up. I mean, that was the tone. Now, look, things have changed tremendously, and America has really
Learned
made
its
amends.
lesson.
They really have. Vietnam's such a deeply unpopular war. Since that time, people are like, these men and women are giving their absolute best. They're giving up years of their lives or pieces of their body or their mental health or whatnot. So people have really changed about that. However, having said that, the truth of the matter is that suicide among veterans is sky high. I mean, suicide is a plague on this country. And then you take the veterans on top of that. I mean,
It's really painful.
a percentage of veterans, a large percentage of veterans in one form or another commit suicide. So we saw a piece in today's Tribune Review that there's a guy, his name is David Rogers, and he wanted people to be aware of the suicide risk among the nearly 18 million veterans across this country. And so he just wanted to raise awareness. He's a veteran of the Navy, 62 years old. He says, to me, there's an awful lot of talk about how to help veterans, but not nearly enough action as I think there should be. So he wanted to draw attention to the issue. So today, he walked 10 miles from the Veterans Memorial on the west side of Ligonier's Diamond to the Veterans Memorial Plaza in Latrobe, and he's talking to people along the way. He had police escort. He had a large American flag that followed him along, and it was just a great visual and an awareness to say,
Good.
God bless those men and women who've given their best. We need to protect them in all manner possible, physically, spiritually, and mentally.
And clearly we need to be reminded.
Yeah. I think that, I wonder if, there must be other countries who also honor their veterans. Don't you think? This can't be
sure.
a uniquely American
No.
thing.
Oh.
But it's a good reminder. I mean,
Yeah, of
there's
course.
Memorial Day where we honor our war dead, but, the walking wounded or just, the regular man or woman who served in this country, kudos to them.
Okay, that brings to mind what I mentioned. That there are some important things to know about Veterans Day, right? This is from the military news. The first one is Veterans Day is not the same as Memorial Day.
Thank you.
Okay, so in case you're wondering about that. So Memorial Day is for those who gave their lives for the country, especially in battle or wounds that they suffered in battle. But Veterans Day honors all those who served the country in war or peace, dead or alive. Okay, the other thing, I think this is interesting. Veterans Day doesn't have an apostrophe.
Oh,
So it's not veteran like, apostrophe S. It's not veterans with an S apostrophe because the military news makes clear it doesn't belong to veterans. It's not a day that belongs to veterans. They're not in possession of the day.
That's excellent.
The day is for all of us to remember our veterans.
Very
That's good to keep in mind.
It sure is,
right?
yeah.
It was originally called Armistice Day. I know we've talked about this in previous years. It commemorated the end of World War I. And then over time, it morphed
That's
into
why it's
Veterans
today.
Day.
So today, 11/11 was the signing of the armistice during World War I.
Exactly. And when I think of veterans in my own family, or especially, veterans that I knew, friends of mine from college, that sort of thing, I keep rejoicing in the fact that America can learn a lesson, that America can demonstrably improve. Because when I see them in their military uniform, I see them surrounded now by people who say, thank you for your service.
Towards a more perfect union.
Yeah, like at Giant Eagle or getting
Sure.
gas or whatever it is. People do that all the time. And when I think of the experience that your brother had to live through, what year was that?
Probably 1971.
Doesn't it give you hope that America's not the same today as it was in 1971?
Without a doubt,
And
right.
in that area and in that regard, America is an infinitely better country, an infinitely kinder country than it was then.
No doubt. Really it is. It's an honor.
Infinitely more honorable country.
Yes. When you see a veteran, don't you feel honored to
Of
be able to
course.
honor them?
Yes.
Because everyone, hey, thank you for your service.
Thank you for
Really,
your
that's
service.
a powerful
Yeah.
thing. I often wonder, when you're traveling, like in an airport, and you see, men and women with their uniforms on, do they get tired of saying, I wonder if they must? Because people, nonstop, thank you, thank you, thank you. They must hear that as they travel, all the time. Maybe you just don't get tired of saying thanks or receiving thanks.
I think they should receive thanks until, their last
Oh, my
breath.
goodness gracious, yeah.
Till their
Very
last breath.
difficult.
Anyway, so happy Veterans Day
Yes.
to all of us. It doesn't belong to veterans as we remember all the veterans in our spheres.
Very nice. We'll take a quick break, come back. Looking forward to this conversation. The Emmaus community of Pittsburgh, it serves persons with intellectual disabilities. Here is a great way for you to serve. Stick around for that conversation next here. Pittsburgh's Christian Talk on the ride home, 101.5 Word FM. people want to be free, don't they? People want to live in their own homes, sit in their own kitchen, hang out just like everybody else does. I think that, that's the common thing, what it is to be a free person here in this world. There's something about creature comforts of living in community. So what about people with developmental disabilities? In the old days, people were sort of shuttered away into homes and institutions. Well, a lot has changed since then, and I would say for the better in many, many ways. The Emmaus community of Pittsburgh is a community that serves persons with intellectual disabilities and promotes public awareness of their needs, based right here in the city of Pittsburgh. And joining us right now is Karen Jacobson, who is the CEO of Emmaus. Karen, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much. It's nice to be here.
Yes, our pleasure.
We're happy to have you. What I love about Emmaus, from reading about it, Karen, is the idea of people with disabilities living alongside people without disabilities, and just recognizing that we're living lives together, as opposed to just shuttling people off in one area and then we're in another area and those people are in that area. So, Karen, talk about that philosophy.
Well, that's exactly right. So, the name Emmaus takes its name from Scripture, right? It's the New Testament story where after the resurrection, Jesus is walking down the road toward Emmaus, and he joins two disciples. They don't recognize him, so they're talking about the loss and the devastation of the previous few days. And he continues the journey. He starts to recount the scriptures. At the end of that journey, the disciples invite Jesus to sit with them. And it's not until they break bread together that their eyes were opened and they recognize him in the breaking of the bread. Well, it's in that breaking of bread that our founders, really built the community where people with and without disabilities break bread together, literally, at family-style meals. But more importantly, it's in that sharing of life. It's the journey. It's walking that road together. And whether we say in the breaking of the bread, we recognize Jesus in the other, or we say we're recognizing the beauty and the dignity, the idea is that we are, people on a journey with and without disabilities, sharing our lives together. And in doing so, everybody's life is enriched.
Mm-hmm. So share with us, what's the model look like that Emmaus presents? I mean, the people that you serve, I would say you call them clients most likely, right? They're men and women who are in homes. How does this work?
Right. So they're as you mentioned, back in the day, and some of the state centers, they used to be called state hospitals, the institutions, the very large congregate care facilities, some are still open.
Really?
The numbers of people living there are greatly diminished, and our Commonwealth is trying very hard to close them. But for a long time, for decades now, we've had a community-based system where there are single-family homes where 2, 3, sometimes 4 individuals live together with either around-the-clock care or as many hours of care as they need. And it's a whole system of providers. There are many nonprofit providers that provide this type of care. Emmaus was founded in 1989, like a lot of organizations that have advocated for people with disabilities. We were founded by parents who raised 4 children, and their youngest daughter has a developmental disability. And so they reached a point when she was growing up of asking that ultimate question parents ask: what happens to our daughter when we're no longer here? Right. What happens when we can no longer provide the care? Where does she belong? Who provides the support? So they gathered people together in a church basement, started talking about the need. And group homes is an old term. We just call them homes. Family style homes, they can be called community living arrangements. But if you drove down a street in any of the neighborhoods in which Emmaus has a house, you wouldn't be able to tell which one was the quote group home.
I see.
Or the home that where. So we really are trying to provide an everyday life for people. It is family style living.
Fabulous. So it must run the gamut then, that the men and women who you serve, they run the gamut of intellectual disabilities. I mean, some hold jobs, right? I mean, some are just regular, living a life. Others are less so inclined. But you need people to be part of that to sort of oversee just the day-to-day to make sure that everybody's okay.
That's right. There are many levels of abilities, and some need more help than others. But we develop programs that are very individualized. So we meet people where they are when they come to us, and of course there are formal assessments that we follow. But we really try and tap into people's strengths. And help them to work on goals, whether that's meal planning or becoming self-medicating or finding that job or keeping that job. And you're right, we do have some people who are competitively employed. We have some people who are retired. Our residents range in age from their early 20s to 80 years old.
Wow.
So we, some people still have family that are quite involved in their lives. And so it's really the best of both worlds, because our folks have seen their siblings move out and move on. Now they have a home of their own. Some have lost their parents and their siblings. And so we really do become, family for them. And we have committed to the people that come to Emmaus to, walk the journey of life until they take their last breath.
I see. So the people who live in the homes, obviously, they're spending time together with their caregivers. But then are there gatherings for the greater Emmaus community where people get together, there 50 or 60 people at one time? You do social outings and things like that?
We certainly do. Now, it's been a long time because of COVID.
Of course.
In fact, I just made the call the other day that once again, for Thanksgiving and Christmas, we won't be gathering. I feel like we've come this far and we're going to get to the other side. We have not lost anybody to COVID at Emmaus. And that I have to tip my hat to our direct support professionals for the tremendous dedication to the mitigation strategies, that they have worked on and lived through and practiced. But yes, we're more than a collection of individual homes. So we do come together as a community. We take our people on vacation once a year, a group community vacation. We have dinners, large gatherings, celebrations, picnics. So yeah, we're all about relationships. At the end of the day, it's all about relationships and belonging to something that's bigger than just living in a house in a community.
Fabulous.
Karen Jacobson is with us. She's the CEO of Emmaus Community of Pittsburgh. Our time's almost up. Karen, I want to ask you what you think that people are missing if they don't regularly, interact with people who have different levels of ability.
I would say joy and the fullness of humanity are two things.
That's good.
And too many people tell me we are really, I hate to use the word desperate, but we are in great, great need for more people to choose to work in this field as direct support professionals. And a lot of people say, I could never do that. I could never work with people with disabilities. And I invite people to come and give it a try, because many, many staff over and over tell me they were surprised by the joy, surprised by the depth of the relationships, and really surprised by the people that they're supporting their abilities, and then also surprised at the gifts in themselves that are sometimes untapped. Fabulous. Until they give this a try.
Okay, so they're called direct support professionals. Now, I learned of Emmaus. Now, I'm surprised that I did not know about Emmaus before. Our mutual friend, Carrie spent his entire career working as a lawyer. And I walk in my dog in the neighborhood, I see Carrie, and he's like, hey, I'm retired. My wife got tired of me hanging around the house during the pandemic. She said, you got to get out of there. So he said he's watching a Penguins game, and he saw an ad for Emmaus, and he thought, that's exactly what I need to be. I need to be out giving of my service. He's still a very young man and very adept, obviously. So now there's Carrie, and he's working with two young men in a home, and he's their primary care provider.
That's a great example of somebody who found a second career, an unexpected career. So yeah, we need all kinds of people to come and just enter into relationship. It's a lot of responsibility. I always tell my staff, we make it look easy. It's a big, big responsibility, but it does bring joy to the individuals that we're supporting, and the staff we're all on a personal journey.
Fabulous. Okay, so this is the audience. I mean, you're talking to a Christian audience. If you want to give the best, be Christ-like in a broken world, be the light of Jesus to people who need help, Karen, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way?
Well, they could visit our website, which is Emmaus, EMMAUS PGH, like short for Pittsburgh.org. And we do have all kinds of ways to participate besides applying for a job. Or they could email Shauna Casey, who works in our HR department, scasey, CASEY, at EmmausPGH.org.
Very nice.
Sounds good.
Well, congratulations. It's a beautiful thing that
sure
you're
is.
doing here. You just need a little extra help here, especially in the midst of the pandemic. People are stuck in whatever, that whole thing, because like Cass says, it ruins everything.
COVID ruins
so if you're so
everything.
inclined, be part of Emmaus community, and it's so easy to find the website. But Karen, thank you, and keep up the great work. God bless you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about Emmaus.
Oh, the pleasure's been
Take
ours.
care.
Truly it has. Be of help. Emmaus Community of Pittsburgh, a community that serves persons with intellectual disabilities and promotes public awareness of their needs. Emmaus. Look it up. Be part of that.
Does this make sense?
Does what make sense?
Solar sidewalk lights. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
You buy them at the big box store. It seems fine because you don't have to call an electrician and, hook up a whole thing. You're conserving power. You're using the sunlight that God's given us. Why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yep.
You just pound pointy at the bottom. You just pound them in next to your sidewalk.
Yep.
And you're good to go. You think this is the answer to all of my landscape lighting needs. Does that make sense, John?
I bought those solar lights. And the first time it snowed, I shoveled a few of them
Okay.
up in the sky. Stuck my shovel in, and they went flying. And I was like, there goes the solar power. So they didn't make a whole lot of sense for me. And they didn't really work that well. They were kind of meh. I love the idea. I get those steps, that can be dangerous, but I'm not going to do it again. So from my perspective as a homeowner with a flight of steps, it doesn't make sense. Do they make sense to you?
Not even a little.
Whoa. You've had some experience.
I bought them too.
Yeah.
I have them at my house right now.
How
and
they working?
They look like garbage.
They're not working?
Well, the first thing is that they're square when you pound them in.
What do you mean they're square?
They're square. They're sitting
Yeah.
square.
Oh, yeah, sure. And
But
then?
then, the rain comes, the wind, whatever. You get like 3 days later, you got some that are like sideways, some that are straight. Some
Still, it's light, though.
They look like garbage.
But do they
as
do
I
their
said,
job?
Garbage. They're so meh. I mean, some of them flicker for some reason we haven't been able to figure out. Some are strong, some are dead.
Have you had them long?
Yeah.
How
Had
long?
A couple years.
Oh, but so you haven't shoveled them.
No, I haven't shoveled them.
All right. Well,
But
just wait.
in my mind, John, they don't make sense.
All right. I'm glad you bring up the outdoors because mine. Does this make sense? I have a neighbor who is dating his leaf blower. That thing is on 7 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night. I mean, that guy's hugging that thing like it's his last breath. It's loud, and ultimately, I believe that the leaf blowers are ineffective. I would give anything. I'd wrap a gigantic red bow around a rake to give to my neighbor. Do leaf blowers make sense to you?
Absolutely not, because you're just blowing them in. And the reason that you buy a leaf blower is that you're hoping to blow them into your neighbor's yard. That's really what it comes down to.
It seems ineffective to me. It
Oh,
really
it's
does.
effective, all right. It's effective blowing them out of your area of responsibility.
So
into
loud.
somebody else's.
Seriously.
That doesn't. I hate that sound.
Okay, so we're kind of cranky today, looks like.
Neither one of these things
Solar
makes
lights,
sense.
leaf blowers, nope.
Listen to this, John.
Okay.
American colleges and universities now enroll roughly 6 women for every 4 men.
Wow.
This is according to an article in The Atlantic by Derek Thompson. It's the largest female-to-male gender gap in the history of higher education and getting wider.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
surprised by that.
Stats are stunning. Education experts and historians say, though, that they're not surprised because women in the U.S. have earned more bachelor's degrees than men every year since the mid-'80s. Mid-'80s.
Wow.
I mean, that's every year that Christy's been alive.
Holy moly.
Women have earned more bachelor's degrees than men.
We can't blame it on Christy.
No, we
though.
can't. I don't think we can. Could try, but I don't think it would
Hey,
work.
Christy, what happened?
So now why this is the case, pardon me, is the subject of polling and kind of data mining. And so the Pew Research Center has looked into this. What's behind the growing gap between men and women in college completion? And there are a lot of things. It's a long article that Pew put out. But I would say, to me, the bottom line of it is that when it comes to why aren't you going to college, if you ask men and women say, because I don't have enough money.
Couldn't afford it.
Men say, I don't want to.
Really? What does that mean?
Well, interestingly enough, I'm kind of comparing these two articles. In The Atlantic, the writer talks about how if you think about your school background, going back to first grade, kindergarten, preschool, whatever, in large part, were the girls in the class better or were the boys in the class better?
What do you mean, smarter?
No, better as far as like more interested in learning, better behaved.
Back to like you're talking preschool,
When you were a kid.
elementary. Wait, I don't have a definitive answer.
Okay, you
to
don't.
that. No.
Christy, do you have a definitive answer?
Girls were better.
Yeah.
Girls were more interested
Me
in
too.
learning.
Not even close.
Really? Okay. No, I would think back to like junior high. I had a junior high teacher who would never be allowed today, but he would quiz us every week. Every Friday was a quiz, and depending upon how you did on the quiz, that was your seating order.
In the class?
Yeah.
So the people who did worse sat up front by him?
No. People who did the best sat, first seat, second
Oh, so
seat.
it's like the symphony. It's like first chair, second chair.
Right. So then the people like in the back, and I think I was always in competition with 2 other guys. So top 5, that's what it makes. So top 5 was always guys.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That wasn't my experience and wasn't your experience
No.
either. It's not the experience of most Americans who say that when they grew up, for the time they began school until they finished it, women or girls, depending on what age we're talking about, were more invested in the education process.
Well, now look, you throw gaming on top of that, right? I mean, can you imagine how that's affected that or disrupted learning?
So you feel like more gamers are men than women?
90%.
You think? Okay.
Easily. Yeah, easily.
Okay.
I bet it's 80-20. Don't you think?
Yeah, there's not a lot.
No, not a lot of girls who are gaming. Although I'm sure they're trying to evolve that.
They
right?
are.
Yeah.
And so in the whole like Twitch gaming world, there's like super famous females
Really?
that are, emerging.
But that's because there are so few of them.
yes.
Okay, so those who do rise get the spotlight. Interesting.
Right.
Well, so then what does that mean? So guys are just disinterested in higher education?
Yeah. So
or learning in
again,
general?
the Pew Research says that for the people who don't go to college, the women say it's because it's too expensive. The men say because I don't want to. Now, going back to the Atlantic article, it says for much of the 20th century, men without a college education could expect to earn a middle-class salary in fields like manufacturing and mining, right?
That's shrinking.
Right. That's true.
Or almost
in the
non-existent.
1970s, the share of the labor force working in these industries declined.
Yeah.
But men, especially in poor areas where college attainment is low, have struggled to adapt to a 21st century economy where a high school diploma alone is often insufficient.
Sure.
So maybe guys who are growing up now saw how their grandfather worked and what he did, and maybe what their dad, how he worked and what he did, but that's not working for men now.
No. I mean, look, growing up in Swissvale, a lot of guys were like, as soon as they graduated from high school, like the next day, they got a job at the mill. right? Their dad worked at the mill. Their uncle got them a job at the mill. That was a great living for a lot of
Sure,
guys.
right.
Then, of course, in the mid-'70s, to mid-'70s, mid-'80s, mills closed. A lot of people left Pittsburgh. Of course, we know that great migration story away from industrial jobs. And then people had to sort of, what? All of a sudden you're working at...
Okay, so that's the question. What? Right, that's the question. So back to the Atlantic article. Sociologist Catherine Eden has written that men without college degrees in today's America have been adrift for decades. They face the simultaneous shocks of lost jobs, disintegrating nuclear families, and rising deaths of despair in their communities.
No, but know this. I mean, Google, Microsoft, they don't care about a college degree.
No, but you have to have aptitude.
Right.
That's what they care about is aptitude.
Yeah.
Let me go on with this. As 20th century institutions have crumbled and around them, these men have withdrawn from organized religion. Their marriage rates have fallen in lockstep with their church attendance. This is not from a Christian publication. I'm reading from The Atlantic here. Their marriage rates have fallen in lockstep with their church attendance. Far from the ordered progression of the mid-century America, which is marriage, career, house, yard, leaf blower.
Yeah.
Leaf blower wasn't mentioned in the article. Men without college degrees are more likely to live what they're calling, this is the official term, quote unquote, haphazard lives, detached from family, faith, and work.
Yeah, I know guys who live that way.
Sure. We all do. Christy, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Right. Haphazard lives.
Haphazard lives. And so women are finding themselves more directed.
They're the bedrock.
They're the bedrock. They're better in school. They value education more. And so they've been able to adapt better to a 21st century economy than a lot of men have.
So it's interesting when I look at us here, right? Now, this is a specialty occupation. Our two bosses, I believe both of those guys didn't go to college.
You're right.
Right? And here we are with college degrees. They're management. We're not.
Right. But if you fast forward 25 years from now, that's not going to be the case. You're not
Right.
going to you're not going to find people in management and media companies who didn't go to college.
No, there's no doubt about that, right? Because that's a throwback to the 60s and the 70s. There's
Sure.
no doubt about that,
Yeah.
right?
I have a friend who was doing stuff online. He was doing some coding online.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, just at he's the kind of guy who can just do stuff like that, and so he was just kind of playing around.
Yeah.
As he was playing around, his screen went dark, and he thought there was something wrong with his computer. And what popped up on his screen was an offer from Google
What?
saying,
A job offer.
"Hey, we want you. Call us right now."
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding you.
That's creepy.
It's super creepy. He was creeped out. His family was creeped out. Everybody involved was creeped out.
Did he take the job?
He did not take the job, but he did call them.
Why didn't he take the job?
For a number of reasons. He kind of wanted to do other things, and he was moving. And
I'm sure it was a good job.
yeah. But based on what listen, if I'm playing around online doing coding, my screen's not going to go dark and Google's not going to contact me. You know what I mean? I don't have. So he has a very unique skill set.
Right.
So he's pretty confident that he can get a
But
job.
that's
somewhere.
creepy. Look,
Isn't it?
Yeah. So what? They're tapping
Yeah.
into your
Yeah.
flow,
Yep.
seeing what you're doing,
Yes.
seeing your
Exactly.
intellectual capabilities and
Yep.
your creativity, and then they're reaching out.
They're trying to scoop the best off the top.
That is really wild. Okay, well, I would say from what you're telling me is all bets are off, right? That if a traditional, and again, I think probably in some ways, you look at four-year colleges, whether it's Carnegie Mellon, at the high tier, or community college, look at how colleges are have suffered because of the pandemic. And the continued growth of colleges, what it costs for a college degree nowadays, the massive student debt that affects millions and millions of people across this country. So that's less desirable for a lot of people.
Well, listen, what you just said, I should have said out of the gate. The cost of college, that education is so profoundly ridiculous that you're trying to ascertain how long could it possibly take me to pay off this loan. There was an expose written in I'm not going to remember the publication now about how Columbia University and NYU recruit students.
Yeah.
Okay. The tuition levels at both of those universities
Off
are
the
so
charts.
sky high.
Sure they are.
They're absolutely sky high. But especially when it comes to NYU,
Yeah.
they have, a huge film department. It's the best film department in the United States, right? But the number of students they have who are in the film department do not match the number of jobs that are available in the film industry that pay more than $30,000 a year.
Really?
So they're paying what? 80, 90,000 a year for
Per year,
tuition.
right.
A lot of them are, of course, having to finance not just their tuition, but also living
Room
in
and
New
board.
York.
Sure. Oh,
Can you imagine that?
no.
So they're ending up with $300,000 loans when they graduate, going to migrate to either New York or Hollywood, looking for work in the film industry, and finding that they're getting job offers for $32,000 a year.
Ouch.
And that is financially dooming them for the rest of their working career. Like, there's no way they're going to get out of that.
So then they're working for Amazon.
Or they're going to work at Rite Aid or whatever they're doing, but they're not working in the
Right.
film industry.
No,
So
right.
anyway, so that's just one example in a very small niche field of how college costs have completely overrun reality when it comes to how you're going to work when you're done.
But at the same time, you've got a kid, right? An intelligent daughter or son. You want them. Most people, I think, would say, especially if they don't have any skill set, right? What are you thinking about doing?
But if college costs are what they are, would you say if your kid is not interested in college, go to college? I don't know if I'd say that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean,
right.
listen,
why take on all that debt if you don't know what you're doing?
You know how many people want to hire plumbers
Yeah.
or carpenters?
But how many kids
Or-
want to be plumbers or carpenters?
Well, I don't know, but if they don't want to go to college, maybe they do.
Well, okay, so we know somebody who, same thing, graduated from high school, didn't want to go to college, went to school for HVAC, right? Did that for a couple of years, saw all of his buddies go to college and move beyond, and was like, I've already done this for a couple of years. I'm kind of bored. He joined the Navy.
Okay.
It's just looking for another
Right.
way to, for an adventure and excitement,
Right.
which I think a lot of
I
kids
think
are being
that's-
sold to go
well,
to college.
Yeah, well, I think that's a fine idea. And think while his friends were racking up student debt,
Yeah.
he was making money, probably good money for 3 or 4 years in HVAC, and now he's going to go do something else.
Okay, so then how will colleges adapt, or can they adapt?
I don't
because
know.
now, because of the pandemic, everyone's doing Zoom college. Look, I mean, the church that I go to is next door to a freshman dorm that looks like, the
A
plaza.
palace.
Right. I mean, big money. And so universities continue to build. Every time I'm in Oakland every Sunday, I mean, Carnegie Mellon continues to build. It's massive.
Pitt continues to build.
They own every square inch of Oakland, where I remember Oakland, back in the day, it was
Right.
a blue collar neighborhood.
Right.
Now it's overrun by the
Right,
universities.
and when I went to Pitt, I
How's that
was
sustainable?
fortunate to go tuition free because my mom was an employee. But I'm pretty sure tuition when I went to Pitt, I graduated in '91. I'm pretty sure tuition was about $9,000 a year.
Okay,
and now it's about $29,000.
I paid every nickel of my college education, every nickel. My college, I think, was $4,400 a year.
And now it's 29,000. I
Oh,
mean, what do you
easily.
think Point Park is now? It's got to be close to that.
I bet it's more than that. Who would,
So you went to Point Park, I went to Pitt.
Yeah.
No way could we. I mean, think how long it would have taken us to pay off our student loans if we would have taken them out at $29,000 a year.
oh my gosh, yeah. Especially me, going in New York City. I was a waiter. Hey, all right, that was worth it.
But you bartended Elizabeth Taylor's birthday
Well,
party.
I had a lot of adventures. I don't regret that at all. I don't regret anything about where I've been career-wise or education-wise.
Right.
It's all worked out just fine.
Right.
But it's been a weird journey.
Yeah, and the heart of it, I think, going back, just looping back around, being detached from family, faith, and work isn't good for anybody.
Being detached from family, faith, and work. So what was the group of people? What are they called? You give them a name.
Haphazard. They're living haphazard lives, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's the danger. That's the sadness of it all.
Yeah. Coming up next, a musical star, hero,
I want to go.
classic
I want to go.
coming to Pittsburgh in August. I just got a request. Do you want to go?
So you think about the demise of pop stardom, right? I mean, there are a few big pop stars like there used to be. One of them, though, that transcends pop stardom is Billy Joel. And he is headed to Pittsburgh August 11th at PNC Park.
Being able to see Billy Joel in a venue that small would be great.
What do you mean that's small? It's
Well-
PNC Park.
Well, but it's not. I saw him at the Civic Arena.
Yeah, I'm not sure one's better than the other.
Oh, I think PNC Park would be infinitely better.
I'm not. I don't think that's
You're
true.
outside. It's the summer. It's Pittsburgh.
I guess.
I mean,
yeah,
I think
guess
it'd
that'd
be
a nice
fabulous.
venue. Yeah, that would be a nice venue.
I mean,
You're right.
I don't know what the sound would be like.
That's the problem, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
I don't
like
know.
The Beatles at Chase
yeah,
Stadium.
I don't know about that, but it sure would make. Unless it's torrentially raining, in which case it would be a really wretched
or
night.
it's 108,
Yeah, but it'll be nighttime.
Still.
So even if it's
It's
108, it'll be 80.
and there's
10.
mosquitoes.
Oh,
I'm just
well,
saying.
cry me a river.
I'm just saying. All these things you've got to take into consideration.
Forget it. I'd
Okay?
love to go.
I'd love to go too.
I would absolutely
Can you imagine
love
the
to go.
boats outside PNC Park?
I
with
know.
the
Wouldn't that
the
be
rivers
wonderful?
clogged?
People are going to buy boats
Heck
just
yeah.
for that night.
Yeah.
That'd be really great.
Tickets go on sale when?
Tickets go on sale next Friday,
Okay.
week from tomorrow.
Have you seen Billy Joel?
Yes. I saw I think it was the Pressure Tour,
Okay.
84.
Very nice. I saw him 1977 at the Civic Arena. It was like Piano Man.
Wow. Christy,
Are you a fan?
Not really.
No,
Yeah,
no interest
okay.
at all.
Not really, no.
Is it a boomer thing?
Well, I'm not a boomer.
Well, you're not. You're not. I'm a
I'm
boomer.
not a boomer.
I'm a boomer. Boomer.
Okay, speaking of Billy Joel, this is kind of funny. I have some celebrity birthdays
Oh, okay.
for
All right.
today. Demi Moore, who I believe was married to him. Was she married? No,
To
she was
Billy
married
Joel.
to Bruce Willis. No, she was married to Bruce Willis. Sorry.
Demi Moore.
Demi.
Demi.
Used to be Demi, but it's Demi.
Demi. I don't have a connection there, Demi Moore, obviously. Demi Moore, are you asking me how old she is? Today's her birthday?
That's what it is. That's the game we play, John.
She's been around a while. She was married to Bruce Willis, you said?
Yeah.
55.
59.
59?
Yeah.
All right.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
I love Leonardo DiCaprio.
So do I.
Seriously.
You know what I just saw him in recently?
Hmm.
Did you see him in Gatsby?
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't he great?
He was great.
Wasn't that a beautiful
Yeah,
production
I
of
think
it?
so, too.
I thought it was great. It got panned. I don't understand why. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah. I'd watch him. He's one of those guys, you know, if I see him like on, I want to watch him right away.
Yeah, I think he's
Right.
excellent.
What's the one where he
Howard Hughes, Aviator.
No, where he's like say anything. No.
Oh,
Where he's like the airplane.
Catch Me If You Can.
That's a great.
oh my
Isn't that a
gosh.
fun movie?
Have you seen that, Christy?
Oh, it's
Catch
a great
Me-
movie.
No.
Oh gosh, what a
But
great
you know the
film.
thing about Leonardo, I mean, look, Who's Eating Gilbert Grape, which was the first time I think he was, on screen. He was like 10 or 12 or
Right.
something like that. He's been around forever, so you could say, "Oh, Leonardo, I bet he's 50," but I don't think he's 50 yet. My guess is Leonardo's probably 46.
47.
Hey, not bad. Anyway,
Still admirable, John. Happy birthday.
All right,
I almost married off Demi Moore to Billy Joel.
that's it.
How about that? Wonder if they've considered that sort of
You had to be a big shot.